with the proceedings, I'll just give you all a brief background on both of our speakers here. So the gentleman on my left here is Mr. Manoj Vasudevan. Manoj is a next level leadership readiness expert who helps senior executives to break through to the next level to their career, business and life. Manoj has spoken to audiences as big as 20,000 and to diverse groups comprising of individuals from 140 countries. He is the author of the international bestseller, Mastering Leadership the Mousetrap Way. He is the 2017 World Champion of Public Speaking and the founder of Thought Expressions. As an expert in next level leadership readiness, he has coached C-level executives, senior executives, bureaucrats, celebrities, diplomats, high performance teams, and has a professional clientele from 30 nationalities. So please welcome Manoj Vasudevan. And the gentleman to his left is Mr. Joshua Pollock. Joshua Pollock is a student of Kamlesh D. Patel, also affectionately known as Daji. After experimenting with various meditative practices, Joshua started practicing heartfulness meditation in the United States in 2002 and has taught it since 2007. He regularly teaches heartfulness at universities, corporations, government institutions, and at public seminars. An accomplished violinist, Joshua has performed and taught all over the world. He holds a bachelor degree of musical arts from Indiana University and 2 master's degrees from Guildhall School of Music and Drama in London. In August 2015, he was invited by Daji to co-author the book, The Heartfulness Way, which has since been an international bestseller. Please welcome Joshua Pollock. So friends, we are talking about leadership, we are talking about management, and while we are all familiar with these terms, it will be interesting to know that in the modern parlance, and when we talk about our own lives, how do we talk about managing our own lives? So I'll start off with Manoj, you. What does this topic mean to you, and how do you think, what is your initial thoughts?
Talking about self-management?
Yes.
All right. I think the leadership comes in 3 perspectives. One starts with self-leadership, how you lead yourself, how to manage yourself, right? It's actually organizing your life, maintaining your drive for doing something. And on the second side comes in leading others, as in leading someone to your common, getting them buy into your vision, doing what you want them to do and following you or your ideas. And third is managing the environment. But again, the third is the environment. But the first is managing from yourself. How do you manage yourself as a self, what we call self-leadership, right? And that's very important, because the way you present yourself or the way you bring yourself up for an event or a situation really affects the way you can impact others. So I think leadership always starts with self-leadership.
Yes. What about you, Joshua? I mean, your whole book is about managing your life in some ways.
Yes, it's true. You know, my book is about meditation. I am here to speak about leadership, of all things. I always find myself getting drawn into very specialized topics and discussions in which I'm not a specialist. And I think the reason is that meditation is something which can help us in almost every kind of way. I remember my grandmother used to tell me, no matter what you do, just take care of your health also. Right? And why did she say that? She said that because she knew that there's nothing that I could do in my life if my health is suffering. If I'm not healthy, I can't do anything. So that's a baseline. So I feel that meditation is a similar thing. If you practice it, yes, it'll help you in leadership, it'll help you in anything actually that you're interested in doing, you know? But I think in terms of this concept of leadership, it is, there are many strong connections, you know? And I mean, I look forward to exploring, you know, many of them today. I think that one of the strongest ones, you know, I was in a session like this some months ago, and I met a very high-level executive of Capital One. Everyone knows Capital One, I think. And he was trying to introduce this topic of me, to this topic of servant leadership to me. And I don't know, maybe you must have heard of this topic, this idea, this concept of servant leadership, where you're not trying to lead anybody, okay? You're not trying to be a leader. I must be a leader, I must lead others. It's a very sort of egotistic attitude, right? But instead, you're trying to be a servant. You're trying to help others. And what does being a leader mean? If, let's say, in the context of some corporate context or some management context, you need other people. All right? You're not going to be a leader if you're all alone. Okay? So that means you need other people to perform to the highest possible degree that they can. And this means that your job becomes to bring that out of them, to pull the talents and aspirations even out of everybody who you're trying to lead. Right? That means you have to serve them. You have to support them. So this idea of not being the roof of the building, but being the foundation of the building instead. And if I might just read one short excerpt from my book, The Heartfulness Way.
Sure.
You know, this is a different context, but the idea is the same. You know, this is actually a chapter that has nothing to do with leadership. This is a chapter on gurus, okay? But of course there are also leaders in some way. Now, this is one example. You see, I wrote this book with my own guide, right? And one day he was telling me something about his own teacher, some incident that happened back in the 1960s, right? He said, in 1961, one seeker came to my guru, Babuji, he said. This seeker already had a guru, Swamiji. However, in Babuji's presence, he had a better experience. That means he meditated with him and he felt better than he did with his own guru, right? So, now he had a problem, right? What to do? He wrote a letter to Babuji. He said, I want to take you as a guru, but I don't want to betray my own guru. What do I do? So the reply to this letter was as follows. He says, as far as I'm concerned, please consider me as your servant, keeping the house clean by sweeping out the garbage. Consider me as the servant and your Swamiji as the master. Okay? I have no hesitation in serving you. And also, I wish you to keep paying the wages of my service to your Swamiji. You see? So this to me was an example of servant leadership. I think we find this throughout all the spiritual literature. I don't want to talk too much. I want to make this one point. Okay? I think we find this throughout all the spiritual literature. I think when you have, in Christianity, when you have Jesus, right? Jesus Christ washing the feet of his own disciples. What is this? Right? When you have, in the Tao Te Ching, this Chinese text, there's a quote. It says, when the master governs, people are hardly aware that he exists. It's invisible. I think this is the highest form of leadership.
Interesting. I mean, when you talk about the servant leadership, and the highest form of leadership is invisible. But in modern times today, everything is so much on your face. And it's all about authority. It's all about being there, do that. Manoj, what do you think? How does it resonate with all the modern concepts of management and leadership that we are being, which has been thrown at our faces day after day?
So for me, I never thought I was born as a leader. Okay, so my journey is very different. I live in Singapore, but I am originally from Kerala. I studied in Kerala, but I'm living in Singapore for the last 20 years. And raise your hand if an engineer. Okay, number of engineers, yeah. So I was also an engineer. So when I studied engineering, then those of you, either you're engineer or you know somebody who's an engineer or architect or accountant or lawyer or studied science. One of the things that troubled me the most was to graduate as an engineer, you need to write 120 sets of exams around there, no? Exams, Viva, you know, Viva, So your oral exam and lab assignments. No, lab assignments, they look at your handwriting is more important than what you write. Can you relate to that? Raise your hand if you relate to that. Handwriting is more important in lab records. So this is the environment I grew up in. So I learned about this and I graduated. And then I got a job. Then one thing led to another. I was working with a large multinational company. In there was I was working in a team of 25 engineers. And a lot of these engineers have come from very top institutes like IITs, AIM, NUS, and top engineers, which is good. So I loved my job. The pay was good. It was overseas. Job was good. What surprised me was my boss. One of the bosses who managed this team of 25 engineers, he used to get 4 times our salary. All right, 4 times. You can imagine if somebody gets 4 times your income, a lot of things changes. The place they live changes, the lifestyle changes, what the car they drive changes, the lifestyle changes. But what surprised me was the guy who got 4 times our salary and who managing a group of 25 engineers, he was not an engineer. In his previous job, he was a physical education instructor. All right, it's a true story. But nothing wrong in being a physical education instructor. Work is dignity. But I was thinking, why did I have to write 120 set of examination, lab record, viva and all this? This guy knew something which I didn't know. Because he had a way of getting people together and get things done. That's particularly a need for a leader. Get people and get things done. So I was very curious about how this is happening. So I used to think leaders are born by birth. This guy is born this way. He's a leader by birth. And I was not born with these skills, and I'll never master these skills. I continued working in an organization, got a promotion, pay rise, and a new position. I was happy. The pay was good. But so every year I used to get something better. 1 year, everything stopped. No promotion, no pay rise, no new position. That's when I went to my boss and I said, boss, how come this year you didn't give me a pay rise or a promotion? He said, Manoj, let me be honest with you. You have reached your potential. You don't have what it takes to get to the next level. So you reach your potential. So I was very disappointed and frustrated, but I was happy that he at least told me the truth, at least what he felt. So I went home and asked people, and I said, so what should I do now? It looks like it's a dead-end job. And you know what they told me? Manoj, nobody values engineers. Your technical skills, nobody values. So if you want to succeed in your personal life, in a professional life, you need to get a, what? Yeah, so are there anybody from IIM here? Okay, so some of them have heard this. So, yeah, they said you should get an MBA. So I dipped into my savings, took a lot of money and went to do an international MBA. So 2 years later and thousands of dollars later, nothing changed in my career. Of course, I made some friends, learned some, but nothing changed. That's when for the first time in my life, I took a step back and started to look at people and researching about how somebody becomes a leader. So I realized people who succeed in their personal life and a professional life master 5 core skills. And if you do not master these 5 core skills, it doesn't matter what you master, you will always be performing under true potential. So the 5 core skills, one is an ability to connect. You talk to someone, how do you connect with them? So this is some part of self-management I'll come to in a minute. Second, ability to communicate, to get to convey what you're thinking clearly, confidently, and convincingly, right? Third is ability to network, build relationships. So you're in a conference like literature festival like this, maybe the person sitting next to you could be the door of opportunity for your next big thing in life, right? So ability to network. And if you notice, a lot of senior leaders or effective leaders or successful leaders or leaders you admire had built a network of relationships. The fourth is ability to lead, as in the concepts we are talking. But the fifth is the ability to influence. How do you influence someone? How do you influence someone to your way of thinking, your idea, get them to follow? So the part where we connect with the self-management is it naturally flows into emotional intelligence. First is being self-aware. So being self-aware of what's going on in your life. Observing, being the observer of your own life. I keep telling some students, like imagine there's a fly sitting in the wall and watching you all the time. What would they see? How do you show up in a conversation? How do you show up at each situation? How are you behaving during conflict? So that kind of self-awareness is key for your controlling your emotions. And so what Joshua just said about self-management, about meditation, is actually being observant. Is that right? I will let you add on to that.
Of course. I mean, I think everything you're saying I agree with because, I mean, if you look at, let's say, top CEOs or executives or anybody at the top of their particular field, whether it's corporate or something else entirely, everybody has the skill sets, right? At that level, that's something everyone has in common. Okay, but what now distinguishes one person from the other? It's now a question of character, right? It's now a question of what is my nature, you know? And so this is what we're now exploring when we come to self-management. We're talking about how do I deal with emotions? How do I deal with my ego? How do I deal with my anxieties, my fears? How aware am I? Manoj was just talking about observation. Can you observe if you're not aware? So you have to increase your awareness. Now my awareness is always going to be in a contracted state as long as I'm, preoccupied with myself, right? Then I become like a black hole. My consciousness just collapses, right? So this is where, and I think, I've heard so many anecdotes about, executives who have now adopted meditation as some kind of, you know, weapon in their arsenal. Of course, that's not how I see meditation. Ultimately, I think meditation is something that you don't need to try to get anything. You don't want to try to get anything. It's like as if you're sitting with a loved one, right? You sit with your spouse, you sit with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, or you sit with a family member, and you're just plotting all the time. You're scheming. What can I get from them? What will they give me? Now the relationship is destroyed, right? But I think ultimately meditation is something that's sacred in a way, where the minute you start saying, what will it give me? All of a sudden, you might as well not do it. Of course, it does give you many things, just as your loved ones also will want to help you out of love. And I think what it can give us is, there's so many things. I think that not just meditation, but there are other practices as well. For instance, in the heartfulness approach, we have something which we call cleaning, right? Now, how does somebody do something truly innovative? How does somebody do something truly creative, truly new that nobody's ever thought of doing before? See, most of the time, as we go through our lives, we see somebody, and that person, we form an impression of that person. They leave an impression on us. My guide and co-author often gives an example of when you're sitting in an airplane. You're sitting in an aisle row. You're just boarding the plane and everybody's filing in, okay? And you don't have anywhere to look except to see these people's faces. And each person you see, you have an opinion about them, right? Maybe a positive opinion, maybe a negative opinion. This person, why are they carrying so many bags? They're delaying everything, right? You're frustrated. Or that person looks nice. So we form a thought, either a positive thought or a negative thought. And you have to understand that thought and emotion, they're the same thing. Every thought that you have has either slightly a positive tinge to it, a positive charge to it, or a negative charge to it. That's emotion. The only difference is the intensity, right? You can have an extremely negative thought, or you can have a subtly negative thought. Same with positive, right? So all the time we're busy thinking. The unregulated mind, the mind that hasn't been managed, right? Thinking, and we're accumulating all of these emotions. And I say accumulating because every time we have an emotion, it doesn't just evaporate like the clouds, It doesn't just evaporate. Instead, it actually settles inside us. What happens to an emotion when we have it? It sinks down inside. You know that it does. You know that it does because now it colors your mood for the rest of the day. Or you also know that your emotions stay inside you because, let's say, you have an argument with somebody on the street, right? Now, next week you meet some new person. That person looks just like the guy you had the argument with. Will you like that person when you first meet them? No. Have they ever done anything to you? No. But they remind you of somebody that you don't like. They remind you of a bad experience. So that proves to us that our emotions stay inside us, and now they condition, this is the important part, they condition the way we perceive our reality. Right? I see people through the lens of my past experiences. Right? In other words, I'm busy conditioning myself as I live my life. Am I able to see reality, or am I just looking through this colored lens of my past experiences and emotions? And if I'm not able to perceive reality, how will I respond to the reality of the present moment? How will I respond to the person in front of me? Right? So, in that case, we're always living according to formulas and precedents and templates created by us in the past. Now, if we're able to remove that, then we could respond to each unique moment as it is, each unique person as they are. And because every moment is unique, that means that in that moment we're being original, we're being creative, we're responding to the unique reality of the situation. Is that not what we need to do in almost every situation we have in life? Is that not what distinguishes a visionary from a regular person? So we have to remove this. And this is one of the things that the Heartfulness Way is about. There's a technique. Every single night you adopt this technique for a few minutes. You remove the days of accumulation of emotional residue. It completely evaporates. You become free from it. Right? And eventually you become purely unconditioned and absolutely attuned to the reality of the present moment. So that helps a lot.
Interesting. I was thinking that we will going to hear something about leadership and some tools, and here it is about all the inner self. So how much is mental makeup, our attitude, the way we are, and all these things, how much does it affect the leadership value that is in front of us?
All right, so it's as me?
Yeah.
All right, I think, so earlier I mentioned about leader by birth, right? People are born to be leaders and leaders by design. So, my work, I'm management consultant, I also do leadership coaching. So I'm fortunate enough to meet people from various organizations around the world at different levels of leadership, starting from beginners to multi-billionaires, CEOs, right? So I'm very curious about learning from their journey, their experiences, and so what I notice is most of them never thought they are born to be that position, right? They are surprised they went that far. They never planned to go that far. So they just charted certain attitudes of mind or behavior, or picked up certain skills that took them to that level. I call them leaders by design, not leaders by birth, but leaders by design. So what I have charted out is like there are 18 different steps they've taken to get to where they are. First of that is actually taking ownership of a problem. So they mean taking ownership for what you're doing. So you can actually relate to someone who is a leader by looking at how well they take initiative for something, or they take ownership. They're taking absolute ownership for that. They make sure they get things done. But that taking ownership is alone not enough. So probably a lot of people have probably seen my book, The Mousetrap Way, in which I talk about, this is in the bookshop, is talk about the 18 different steps to take. But the first thing is having the mind to take ownership of a problem and making it that a habit. So the mindset part comes from, for me, the ownership. Second is actually, and that's, I think most of you can relate to this, is lots of times we are working to increase our competence. That means we go to study, we get a certificate, then we get another certificate, then we get yet another certificate, then another qualification. We are looking for some new certification or training, and we want to get trained. But people are working on the qualification. So I say competence is important, but confidence is paramount. Right? A lot of people in the room, or they have competence, but they don't work on their confidence. So some kind of inner strength, so to speak, to take action or take charge of a situation. So the problem in the world, I believe, a lot of competent people do not have confidence, and a lot of people who do not have competence seem to have a lot of confidence, and they are the ones who rule the world. Right? A lot of people who are confident to put themselves up, and they rule the world. But again, there should be some kind of balance between the external world and the internal world. how you want to live a joyful and fulfilling life. And that's probably what you want to look at as well. So I have some kind of inner and outer balance. So sometimes I meet a lot of CEOs or top level execs. They're very, very busy life. There are some people who are always calm. They're always calm, very relaxed. So what I notice is they have what I call a daily routine. So a lot of these big leaders, if you look at Obama, or in Singapore we had Lee Kuan Yew was the founder and the architect of Singapore. So these people do not wake up in the morning and decide what should I do today. No, they don't wake up. They have a planned schedule for the day. Even athletes, even in a lot of leaders in India as well, a lot of celebrities, they have what we call a daily routine. It's like, raise your hand if you brushed your teeth today. Some of them didn't hear the question. Okay. All right. So what makes you brush?
What you think?
Sorry?
They heard.
They heard. But some of them didn't raise the hand. That's why I said. All right. That's fine. Which is fine. I'm not imposing that you should brush your teeth, but I think it's helpful. All right. Some people drink water or tea. But what triggers you to brush your teeth the moment you wake up? Because that has been built into your habit system. The waking up is what we call a habit loop. The book's called A Power of Habit. The few books on this topic. There's what we call a habit loop. There's a cue that results in a reward, and that becomes a routine. This is like a circle. The cue is, for me, maybe waking up triggers that I should brush my teeth. Right? So you don't consciously decide should I brush my teeth or not. And you don't, most likely you're not going to not brush your teeth because something urgent has come up. Because this is part of your system. So likewise, important practices like reflection, self-reflection, journaling, writing, meditation, exercise, stretching. One of my late realization was, if you stretch for 20 minutes a day and you're hydrated well enough, you will be super productive for the rest of the day. So what I have observed in my own life and the life of my students, if there are some set practices throughout they have set up, they will be hyper productive. So I've realized when I don't follow those routines, I'm tired by noon. When I follow those routines, I can work till from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. and still feel very fresh. So these great leaders have embedded that into their practice. If you look at our own famous leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, or they all have a system in place. So these positive attitudes of maybe visualization or meditation or reflection, journaling, exercise, stretching, all if you make it part of your habit system, it will be second nature to you. You don't have to think. You will do it as if you're brushing your teeth because it's part of your habit loop. So making it a habit is more important to sustain these results.
Yeah, and he's absolutely right. And the reason for that, I think anybody who's ever done any international travel has experienced jet lag, right? I was in the U.S. last week. Right? My 2-year-old son is up all night, every night this past week. My wife has gotten no sleep at all this week. I feel kind of guilty about that. Now, that means that if you're used to going to bed, let's say at 10 p.m., right, every single night, or it doesn't matter, 2 a.m., whatever time you go to bed. Now, one night you say, I'm going to go to bed really early. Let me go to bed at 7 p.m. Will you be able to sleep? No. You're just going to toss and turn. You're not used to doing that at that particular time. Right? Now, same thing goes for any other activity. He says that you lose energy if you don't have a schedule. That's why. Because now you're fighting against inertia. Meditation too. If you used to meditate 6 a.m. every day, right? The minute you sit down 6 a.m., you'll be in meditation. No struggle. Because you're used to meditating at that time. But if you meditate one day at 6 a.m., one day at 9 a.m., one day some other time, it'll be a struggle because you're not used to it. Your body clock is set to do something else. And because of the fact that you're struggling, now you're utilizing all your energy and you're becoming tired later in the day. So that's the reason. We have to swim against the currents when we don't have a routine.
Yeah, that's true. So the making that habit part is the key for any habit to embed. And I realized, so there was one of the top level executives coaching. He on his own started some kind of meditation or mindfulness practice, and because he was so stressed, so it's like his organization gave him some mindfulness training. And he comes to me and says, Manoj, nothing happens. After I meditate, nothing happens. So the point is, we are always eager for some kind of something tangible immediately. But this actually, we have to initially spend time to make anything as a practice, as a habit loop. And the results comes in the long term. And so for me, simple things like drinking water, being hydrated, I didn't know that. Just having enough water in your system, enough exercise, enough stretching, because not used to exercise. Never in my schooling system there we've been trained to have a regular exercise, unless maybe in the US you have regular sports as mandatory, or do you have mandatory sports, right?
I probably didn't do that.
You didn't probably do that. So we didn't have that. Even in Singapore, they have some mandatory. People are so used to exercise. In fact, if the males in Singapore, they have mandatory military service. So every 6 months or so, they're called to serve in the military. And if you are not in shape, they make you run around to get you in shape. And if you're out of shape, you're in trouble. They can always also call you at short notice to report for the military. So if everybody local, a Singaporean male below 40 is very fit and trim, most of them, right? The other ones will make you run around. So then I realized more exercise, actually you get more energy to do stuff. So most of the time we are busy. We actually sleepwalking through life. We just sleepwalking through life without being aware of what's going on. But what I notice is more aware of what is going on, how we interact with people. Of course, I spoke about influence, getting people on his, but also be aware of that. So that's kind of social awareness is also key. But when you're switched off, you're sleepwalking through life. We don't have control over where it is going. Nisha, open for questions.
Yeah, interesting. So, but I have a question for you, Joshua. I mean, I can relate to what Manoj is saying. We understand exercising and walking and being fit. But when you talk about meditation, and it seems to be the solution to all ills, but it sounds so esoteric, and you spoke about the system of cleaning and how, see, people have the attitude, people understand these things, but how do we really make it happen? I mean, because most of the times you're confounded by these terms, and it's difficult to really relate to it or even practice it. How much practice is required, or how do we do it if I have to?
It's not like if someone serves you ice cream, it's not going to have you, it tells you eat this every day. It's not going to be difficult to make it a habit. You know, a good experience in meditation, same thing. Right? I don't know, I'm kind of tempted to offer everybody an experience of it right now. Short meditation.
Sure, I think.
Would you like to meditate for a few minutes? You want to try something? An experiment? Yes? Okay. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it.
But you'll have to walk us through because, yes, because.
Okay. So this is what, I'll just tell you how this heartfulness approach to meditation. Okay? Basically, we meditate on the heart. It's heartfulness. And not only that, but we just have this hypothesis. You don't have to believe, but have a hypothesis that there's some kind of light in the heart. Okay? Hypothesis is something that you don't have, it's not an assumption. You're just entertaining this idea for the sake of experimentation. Okay? So there's some light in the heart. What do you do with that idea? Do you try to imagine it? Do you try to see it? No. It won't work. You will never see it. This is something that we can only feel. And you know what? That's why we're meditating on the heart. Because the heart is where we feel things. Right? So what we do, we simply close our eyes. We just gently put our attention there on the heart. And having done so, we simply wait. We wait to see what kind of experience gradually emerges through the course of our meditation. And that's it. You can even think of this light in a very special way. You can think even that it's light from the source, from your source within. Or whatever appeals to you. If you like the idea of divine light, you can adopt that idea. But basically, we are sitting in a relaxed way and waiting. Now, I'll walk you through. We'll do a very short meditation, maybe 10 minutes. Okay? And I'm just going to help you relax, because it'll be easier to meditate when your body's relaxed. So I'll say relax this part of the body, relax this part of the body, and I'll say please start meditation. Then we'll sit quietly, and then I'll say that's all. So please close your eyes, very softly and gently.
So 5 minutes for 5 minutes, just say 5 minutes.
Yeah. If you're standing up in the back and you'd like to participate, I don't know if you're in a place where you can sit on the ground or not, but at least if you can't sit down, still tune into the heart and see what you feel. Now, close your eyes and gently bring your attention to your toes. You can wiggle your toes, you can move your toes, and relax them. Relax your feet. You can even imagine that there is a current of healing energy entering into the bottom of your feet, through the soles of your feet, which is relaxing them. And that it is moving up your legs, relaxing you, relaxing your ankles, relaxing your lower legs. Let your knees relax, and relax your upper legs and hips. Let your waist relax, your abdominal muscles, your stomach. And relax all the muscles of your chest. And now let your whole back relax, all the way from the base of your spine, all the way to your shoulders. Be relaxed. Wherever your body is in contact with a chair, relax, sink into the chair. And now let your shoulders relax. Let them feel as if they're liquid, like water, just flowing and relaxing, softening, melting. Relax your upper arms, elbows, and all the muscles of your forearms. Relax your wrists, your hands, and fingers. And you can even imagine that there's energy flowing out from your fingertips. Now gently bring your attention to your neck and relax your neck. Relax your jaws and your mouth, your tongue and teeth even, and all the muscles of your face. Let your eyes be very softly closed, very gently closed. Relax your temples and ears and earlobes, and all the way to the top of your head. And allow your whole body to become totally relaxed. Gently bring your attention to your heart, or even to your whole chest area, where light from within, where light from the source is drawing you inwards, further inside. And please start meditation.
right. So I think we can open the floor for questions. Yeah.
That was interesting. So why don't we have some questions
For
for
any
our
of this.
panelists?
Yeah. Yeah. Here's a question. Yeah.
Hello, sir. I am Rakesh from Andhra Pradesh. Thanks for your valuable experiences for sharing. So I have a question, sir. To get work from people, I have seen so many bosses are very strict. It is good to be strict to get our work, or we have to do some. If there is one more problem, if bosses are very friendly, also we have some other problems. So how to deal with employees, sir? To be strict to get our work, and sometimes they are out of control.
You question to me?
Yeah.
So are you working?
No, I have some experience.
Are you a student? Okay.
Now I'm
So you're saying leadership style.
how to
How,
deal,
how to?
deal employees.
How to lead employees. See, there are different leadership styles, and depending on leadership style, you attract that kind of people to follow you. Right? There are some leadership styles, you can't say one leadership style wrong or the other one is right. But typically, leadership styles have evolved over time where it is not a command and control, where the boss says something, everybody follows. These days, you try it with people, most people will not like it. Right? So, but there are habits that people have ingrained based on their experiences, ingrained in themselves. So they behave in certain ways, and they will never change unless they become self-aware of the cost of behaving like that. So you can't fix your boss, but you can always fire your boss. You can fire your boss by finding another job. Right? But there are sometimes you will be able to convince your boss to change. So that's a concept of what we call lead your boss. So the way to do that is when you get into your new boss, you sit with him to what I call a design alliance. Design how we are going to, this is the way I will be working. This is my expectation from you as a boss. So you need to have the guts to go to your boss and have that discussion. What are you expecting from me, and this is what I would expecting from you. When you reach that kind of comfort level, it will be easier to be verbalized. What we call, there are some of these conversations never happens. Then it becomes some other, like what Joshua said, you see another person, and that thought process of your boss is like this, is a cloud over your head wherever you go, and your behavior also affected by that. But you need to have that conversation with the boss to work a working alliance, what I call a design alliance with your boss. That can help to sort out that problem a bit. Yeah, but of course, the long term is not successful. You can always fire your boss.
Yes.
Thank you for the wonderful experience. There are a number of books available in this area apart from your wonderful books. Can you suggest some genuine books which help you in the self-management process? And one more question.
He wrote a book.
Yeah. One more question. Teenagers all over the world find it very difficult to manage their self. Teenage age groups.
Themselves, yeah.
Themselves. So, how can we do to help them manage their self in a better way and being very productive?
Who do you want to answer?
Your question
I
is
can
to-
answer. Okay, I believe, see, a lot of my learning is from my students. When I coach, they tell their life story. One day a lady came to me and she said her children are doing phenomenally well. Very independent. They are fully in charge of their lives. They are successful. And I said, how come both of your children are really doing very well? And they're well behaved, very well balanced. And she said, she was a teacher, so she told me there are a few things we need to take care of. One thing, you need to respect children when they are children. You should teach them how to respect by showing them respect. Then you should build trust. Trust, which means that your children should be trust you enough that when they are teenagers, they still trust you enough to come and open up their life to you. Typically in a teenage situation, what I have seen happening is teenagers do not trust their parents. They trust their friends more. And if you listen to some of the speakers here, they also said actually now they trust influencers more. When I was speaking in the Middle East, and one guy, local guy came to meet me from Algeria and Sudan, they said for them when they're marketing their product, they're selling some teenager products. I said, how do you market this? How do you get to this? Do you market to the parents? She said, no, we don't market to the parents because they don't listen to the parents. They only listen to influencers. You know what they do? They go to Instagram and look at all those guys, a lot of teenage following. they pay them money to tell them what they want to tell them. Because the situation has reached where children do not trust their parents. So if you are in a situation where the children are really young, the first thing to do is to build that trust and gain that respect, so they will carry on. One guy is nodding, one teenager looking guy is nodding. But the point is, then that's is taken. But if you're already a teenager, situation become a bit more tough. They are always looking for space. Because teenage is a time, if you remember when you were a teenager, that's when we are trying to find identity. We are trying to find our place in the world. It's a big struggle. From age 14 to 25, there's a nice talk. You asked me for books. A nice talk by a lady. I'm trying to. She has a book called The Stroke of Insight. The American lady wrote this book. She has a TED talk as well. She talks about how to manage teenagers. She's the brain is changing so much. They do not know what's going on in their life. They do not know what's going on in life. And then this parent figure comes and tells them what to do. You treat them like children, like tiny children, and then it creates the rift. So mutual respect and space is really good. One book I picked up from this fair is called How to Talk to Children So That They Listen to You. I picked up the book. I'll read and let you know it's a good book. It looks like a good book. Yeah. So, but the core idea is to respect them, give them space, and give them ability to express ideas, and do not take what they say personally, because they themselves do not know what they're talking about, right? And they trust their friends more than you. Yeah.
To Manoj, any experience that is something unique which you had since you moved out from your job, which normally you would have not have got if you were continuing with your job? Any unique experience which you can share with us?
Yeah.
Question one. And the question number two is, what is the advice you got from your father when you were throwing away your job and moving out to this motivational training talk? And
Okay, great. So first thing, I'm not a motivational speaker. People call me a motivational speaker, but I do speak a lot as a prophet.
What is what you got from your father when you were throwing out the job?
But actually, my father was not alive to see my journey. But one thing he told me, which I had helped me like 20 years later, is when I was a child, you know, in Kerala we have Madhurubhi, Manorama, and there is one called Talasthanat Inna. You know, Talasthanat Inna is what's going on in the city today, right? So I grew up in Trivandrum. So he used to look up the paper and look at what functions are happening in the city. And he'll make it a point to go and listen to all the speakers. I said, why are you wasting your time? You're always going to meetings. He told me one thing which I took as a life advice is that you can go and listen to a speaker for 1 hour. You are investing 1 hour. But they are sharing you their lifetime of experience. So you can learn so much just by listening. So I started much later in life, but started listening to a lot of speakers and writers. My session was only today, but I came yesterday. I also spoke to other speakers in the speakers launch to learn from their experience. So that listening part is a very interesting experience I had. And your first question I forgot. All right. So one unique experience I had, which changed my life into because I was as I am an introvert. You can Google me. I'm an introvert, but I wanted to learn these 5 core skills: connect, communicate, network, lead, and sell. Of course, I wrote the book, so in hope that if anybody wants to pick up these skills, I truly believe anybody can be a great speaker and a leader, no matter where you start. That's proven by my experience and observation. So one thing that happened, I was speaking in the US, in Cincinnati. And I was speaking in Cincinnati, and there's a huge audience, 800 people. And I'm given a very tight speaking schedule. I can speak for like 7 minutes, 8 minutes. And when I started speaking, my microphone doesn't work. And so I'm forced to speak to this group without a microphone, in the best of my ability. And then I delivered my speech, and there was not impact. I thought there's some impact in the front room. Later, a lady came to me, a blind lady came to me and said, Manoj, your speech made such a big difference to me, and no, I feel like I was in a roller coaster ride with you. I said, you didn't even see what I showed you. How can you? Then she connected with that. Then I started thinking, our purpose in life is also about not what you want to share, it's also somebody in the audience wants to hear something you want to say. So that was a shift in my thinking. Her name is Kitty, and I started writing emails with her. But she can as a text to braille converter. So that kind of experiences from audience, listening to people who implemented what you said or something, that is very unique, which I never had. or rather never had an end user come to you and say, your product helped me, right? This was more direct.
Hello, my name is Zainuddin. According to Manoj Vasudevan, competent people do not have confidence. If I think that the competency without confidence is important.
I'm not saying it's important. I said competence is important, but confidence is paramount. So these days, if you look at being successful, right, so building your confidence is paramount. Whether you like it or not, that's how the world is running. You look at, I don't want to make it political, but you look at Donald Trump. I'm not sure whether you're a fan of Donald Trump, but he was American. I didn't realize. I'm probably going to get killed. So I was in the US before the US elections, and so he shows a lot of confidence. I'm not saying that's right, but those people who are projecting confidence also getting an edge. Yes. Yeah.
See, with confidence and ego are tied together, right? Everybody maligns ego. It gets a very bad name, but it's necessary because he says confidence is necessary. So therefore, ego is also necessary, says a meditator, right? The problem is when it gets stuck at a certain level. It needs to have a flexibility, right? Ego and confidence, they need flexibility. Take a scale from 0 to 100. Now you need to go and give a speech to 1,000 people. You're going to need a lot of confidence, right? Say you need 99% confidence in that moment. So then your ego also has to go up 99%, right? You can do it. But the problem is what happens if it gets stuck there afterwards? Now you go home, you're brushing your teeth, looking in the mirror, I'm the greatest. Right?
So actually, I want to make a distinction there: the confidence and arrogance. So so Donald Trump has said to prove the point that a lot of confident people with the competence are also successful. My point here is there's a difference in confidence and arrogance. A lot of competent people who could have achieved so much more in life are not achieving because they are not developed their confidence. I can point out people in this room who could have done so much. Raise your hand if you think if you had more confidence, you could achieve more in life. Yeah. It's very true. It's common around the world. So my point is the arrogance is believing that I can do anything. In a way, Donald Trump is on that stage where he believes he's always winning. But I'm talking about individuals who are competent, highly qualified, highly educated. Kerala is one of the most literate states in the world, right? So what if we show more confidence to play at a higher level? What if we teach our children to show more confidence what they truly believe in? Not to like show that they know everything, but at least the things they know express that confidence, not to get stuck in that level of arrogance.
Whether it's a high level or a low level, equally bad if it's fixed.
Yeah.
It has to be movable, dynamic.
In speaking, I usually say you go without any arrogance. Like you just go as a messenger. That means your life has taught you a few things, and you're sharing, believing that somebody will benefit. That's the easiest way to speak from my experience.
Sir,
Any other questions?
Hello?
Yeah.
Sir, I have a real quick question.
Mike, yeah.
Yeah. What is your stance about psychedelic drugs and legalizing it?
So,
Thank you.
sorry?
Psychedelic drugs.
Psychedelic drugs. What's your viewpoint on psychedelic drugs?
Yeah, and legalizing it.
Legalizing is very good point actually. This is very funny. I'm not saying why you asked that. I was surprised you asked me. But in society, what's happening now? Lot of these in Silicon Valley. If you go to Silicon Valley, lot of guys are in high stress environment, and they are actually using these drugs, and they're saying it helps them. But now, anything that's dependent on external stimuli is bad for you. Like drinking coffee and making addiction, it's bad for you. That's what I feel. Yeah, so you can also answer that question. So I think meditation is the cure for all. So you got to answer.
I am with him on this. Anything. They're trying to affect their consciousness because they've realized that consciousness and awareness are at the heart of what they're trying to achieve, whatever that may be. So having realized that, it's a positive thing, but then what are you going to do with it? And are you going to solve the problem once and for all, or are you going to become reliant upon some external fix, which is not going to last, which is not going to be permanent, right? you can take psychedelic drugs. Maybe you get some effect, but this is going to be a very temporary effect. And now you have to return to it again and again and again with all of the side effects that that has.
Yeah, I just want to add one more point. So those of you thinking of doing, I say don't never say no to drugs, okay? So one side people do not realize is drugs like heroin takes you to a very high state, but then the next moment you go to a very deep depression, right? And to come out of that, that's how addiction starts. So, sorry? You're narcotics. Yeah, I'm just saying, so anything related to external stimuli takes you to a stage is not sustainable. So people use a lot of weird stuff, but I think that's not sustainable. Lens on that is not, but legalization is a political game. Yeah.
So Manoj, I think this is all the time we... So I think this is all the time that we have. This discussion was very interesting, and of course they are here so we can continue this near the book signing stall also. So thank you very much, Manoj. Thank you, Joshua. And thank you all for being such a wonderful audience. Thank you.
Yes.